I always wondered about something. Well, I started wondering about this like maybe 10 years ago. And I always wanted to express it in some kind of way. So I'm going to take this opportunity on my platform. The Save the World, or excuse me, Save the Children's Foundation. How many of y'all seen that? The Save the Children Foundation with, this is a foundation where these organization goes over to economically depressed so-called black and brown countries, third world countries, mainly African countries, to feed the children, the starving people, right, of that country. The Save the Children Foundation, right? And it's funny. Like, I'm not saying it's funny, but it's weird because I used to see them showing pictures of these people starving, right? Showing bellies that are, bloated and whatnot, malnutrition and things like that. And they filming and showing these people, right? And these people are like they on death's doorknob and with doorstep. I meant to say death's doorstep. They showing these people looking jacked up, right? Flies all around their face. How many of y'all grew up looking? I'm seeing those videos and one of those TV promotions. Where they was asking for money. Sally Struthers, the actress Sally Struthers, she came up there. They hired her as a spokesperson for this foundation to appeal to people for money, right? To get people to donate to save the children and get people to so that they could get, build fresh, wells there. This is what they say. They was getting the money to build wells, to grow food, to feed the people, right? Kind of like Red Cross, but they asking for donations. So I grew up seeing this, and I'm like I said, it was really, really crazy and horrific. And I'm like seeing these people, like I said, flies all around their face. They looking like they dying, and the women are holding their children, and they giving them some sort of meals or whatever the case may be. And I'm looking at this, and I never thought to myself, how the hell are these people still? How are they able to constantly ask people for money for this? How is it that these people continue to live? Because like I said, they showed you women with babies. The women are malnourished and the children are malnourished. And I didn't think about this when I used to look at it, because you're a child, you don't think, how are these women carrying children? How are these women carrying children? Y'all done seen the women with pregnant or they holding their baby. They done had their babies and the babies is malnourished. The children are malnourished. So how are they having babies? And even deeper question, who's getting these women pregnant? Who wants to have sex with a malnourished woman with flies around her face who's starving? Who wants to have sex with her? And how is she able to carry a baby if she can't feed the baby? If a woman is malnourished and she's pregnant, it's not gonna be any baby. That baby's gonna die. So I mean, something ain't right here. How is it that y'all doing this for years and you going around, you got these cameras up in these people's faces and these people supposedly are starving people and you need all this money for water but you got money to pay Sally Struthers, which I'm pretty sure she's not cheap. But just away from that for a minute, how are these people able to even how are these people even able to have the strength to do anything? Have sex, have children. These are things that have to be, you have to give food to these people. These people have to be nourished. You have to have nutrients to do this type of stuff. You can't just, have a baby and then just think the baby's going to come out. And I'm like, something ain't right here, man. Because when something just don't sound right, it just don't sound right. And then, yeah, plant these crops. You're talking about the drought and the starvation and things like that. And I'm like, how much is that money actually goes to these people in their villages and whatnot to feed them, and what goes in your pocket? Because in order to keep a business going, an operation going, you have to constantly be, going and doing and filming these casts and asking people for money. So can you ever really afford to feed people to where they don't need you no more? Because keep in mind, if they feed all the people, right, and they get these wells going and start growing crops and things like that, because they said that's where the money going to, build water wells and things like that for fresh, clean water and the crops. I heard these commercials, right? And I'm like, but are they really going to do all this stuff? Are they going to give them rations? Because that's what it look like they doing. They giving these people rations. It look like they just doing enough to keep these people alive so they can go in front of the camera. They can show these people how destitute and poor they are. And people thinking, damn, I got to give to this. This is terrible. Seeing the flies flying around these people's faces, especially the children. So they tug at the people's heartstrings. Not to mention people like will watch that stuff because they like trauma. That's like trauma porn to them. They watch the worst and the most terrible things, right? Just so they can sit up and say, well, damn, I'm lucky to be wherever I am and I'm fortunate enough to have money, so I'm going to give some money to them. You see, that's what that's for. That's the effect that they're trying to get out of people. Because like I said, it just seems like they feed these people just enough just so that they can get in front of the camera, right? Get in front of the camera and perform, looking sorry and sad and things like that. And, they film these people and for their participation, they get rations. They get rations. They might give them some fresh water. They might do the well thing. But again, you don't want to really feed the people because, you do a little bit. But because if you totally feed the people, then the foundation is done. It's gone. Everything mission accomplished. They growing crops now and things like that. And I'm like, but I start thinking, are these people? Because I go over every scenario logically. I'm like, is it that these people, could they be possibly making these people up? I'm not saying they not starving or anything like that, but can they possibly be making these people up and or maybe they come to them when they first come there, they come to them in their worst state, and they make it look even worse, a lot worse, so that they can get money out these people. Because there's no way in hell you got a society of people who have been starving for so long, yet they still able to mass produce. That don't make no sense. That's crazy. And how long have these people been starving in their villages and their country? How long have they been starving? Right? How long have they been starving? And how is it that they're able to mass produce? How is it that they're able to make children? Again, you have to eat. You have to have nutrients. You have to have that to make babies. You can't make babies without no nutrients. You can't make babies without no sustenance, no food. You gotta have that. Women definitely got to have that to feed babies. How the hell was they carrying babies starving? And I keep pointing to the obvious. Who wants to have sex with a female who's skin and bones and starving? Like, where's these guys at putting babies in them? That's what I'm saying. It just something don't add up. It just don't add up. Because like you might get away with that whole starving thing for one generation, but like next generation's second, third generation people, it was not supposed to be none. If they never moved in that place, they still in that remote place, and they starving like that, it ain't supposed to be no next generation because they'd have been on died. The women can't get pregnant. Malnourished women cannot carry no children. You see, so that's why I wonder how long a lot of these places have been struggling. They had to have a stable environment at some point to get to this point. You follow what I'm saying? You have to have a stable environment, have to be eaten to some point to get to, where you are in life, where you are living. You see, if you don't have that stable and steady environment, then what happens? You can't really grow. So those people would have been dead if they hadn't been eaten and things like that. That's why I say, how much of that is real and how much of that is Hollywood? Because why would they have to bring in an actress? Why would they have to bring in an actress to do that when they brought Sally Struthers in? Why can't they use regular people who are actually out there helping to, feed these people? Why use an actress? Answer: because they would rather have an actress out in front, because actors know how to act and play on people's emotions, know how to get people to give. That's my thoughts anyway. But y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments out. Also,